Hey, my name is Gaia Athena, and today I'm going to bring you some book reviews of the books that I read in the beginning of March. They are mostly graphic novels, graphic memoirs, and manga. Every month for a few days in the beginning of the month, I do a readathon with a couple of my friends, and I always read graphic works for this. Lately anyway. My friends do their own, they read their own books. Anyway, so onto the books. There's a lot to discuss. I'm going to try and make this not too long because I've been making a few long videos recently. The first book is Donald Duck Pocket 220, Het reddende licht. This was a new read to me. I picked this up in the supermarket when I saw it on a good deal. And I quite enjoyed this one. I enjoyed it more than the one I read in January. I skipped the February graphic works because I read library books instead. And they don't have a lot of interesting graphic works at the library. Anyway. Yeah, so yeah, I enjoyed this. It was a nice read. It's lots of different comics with Donald Duck, but also with other Disney characters. Next up, I read volume 2 in a Silent Voice series by Yoshitoki Oima, and this continues the story. It's been about 2 months since I read the first book in this series, so I had to think back a little bit about that, but I enjoyed this volume. It was nice to see more of the story. Volume 1 talked more about their childhood, and volume 2, and I presume upwards, is gonna be more like, well, an older age. I think they're teenagers here. This book is about a boy who used to bully this girl. She's deaf, and he bullied her when they were in primary school, when they were really young, and then some years later they meet again, and he wants to sort of try to make amends. Oh, I forgot to show you some of the art. This keeps happening because I do like to show you some of the art, because I personally really like to see that in other people's videos. So that's A Silent Voice. The next 2 books were Fruits Basket Volume 1 and Fruits Basket Volume 2. We recently managed to find the missing volumes of this series, so I'm planning to read all the volumes this year. I have previously read volumes 1 through 7 because that's what we had, and then we had a couple of odd later ones, so we've bought the missing ones, and then for the last few books in the series we bought the newer released omnibuses, because these editions are out of print. The omnibuses contain 2 of these volumes, but it's a bit confusing because they call them collector's edition, and then this would be collector's edition volume 1, which is 1 and 2, and then collector's edition volume 2 is books 3 and 4, etc. Anyway, this series is about Toru Honda, who she lives alone in a tent because she lost her mother, and she moves in with the Soma family. He's part of the family, and all of the members of this family have a curse, so there is kind of a magical element to this, but I don't know how much to say without spoiling it. I really enjoyed rereading these first 2 volumes. I have also seen the Fruits Basket anime adaptation, so I was familiar with the story in these 2 volumes. As I said, I've read up to volume 7, so I look forward to get beyond that. My plan is to read 2 of these volumes each month. It's currently March, and then it'll be 1 collector's edition volume, and then for November and December I have to read 2 collector's edition volumes if I want to be finished before the end of the year. But we have to see how things go, and I don't know if planning wise I can really participate in all the readathons, so we will see, but the readathons with my friends. But yeah, anyway, so these 2 are very enjoyable to me. And then here is, I don't know if you can really see that. Then I read Cucumber Quest, book 2. The Rebel Kingdom by Gigi. I read book 1 in January, and this continues the story. This is a fantasy graphic novel series. There are currently 4 books out. It takes place in a fantasy world with different kingdoms. This one is the Rebel Kingdom, and it's about a brother and a sister, and his name is Cucumber. Let me see if I can find it. Well, this is Cucumber, and he is foretold to be a hero in an ancient prophecy, but he actually wants to go to magic school, and he is not that heroic, he feels. Instead, his sister, Almond, that's her on the cover there, she likes sword fighting, and she is more like assertive and like brave, and so this graphic novel series plays a bit with gender stereotypes and fantasy tropes and all that. And it's also got a lot of humor. A lot of the characters are bunnies. I don't know if you can see that. Here is some of the art. And yeah, I really enjoyed reading this second book. Maybe slightly less than the first book, but I still liked it a lot. Next up, I read Caveboy Dave, book 2, Not So Faboo, by Reynolds and Phil McAndrew. I read book 1 in January, and that was a reread. This was a new read for me. And again, this is about a cave boy Dave who lives in, well, prehistory. And in this book, the shaman, is that the word? Shaman? I don't know how you pronounce that word in English. Goes missing. And suddenly, I can see you. Suddenly, the people in the village look to Dave, who is a 12-year-old kid, for guidance. See if I can show you some of the art. I enjoyed this book, but not as much as the first book. But I did quite like it. Dave is an inventor and he's smart, whereas like a lot of the villagers are hunters. And yeah, so this was enjoyable. Then I read Aya, and this is Omnibus 2. This one is called Love in Yup City, and this contains the original graphic novels, books 4 to 6. This is by Marguerite, Abouet and Clément Oubrerie. I read book 1 in February for Blackathon, and so this month, this March, I decided to read book 2. This is a graphic novel series that takes place in Ivory Coast in the 1970s, and it is based on Marguerite Abouet's youth growing up there. I can't really tell you what this omnibus is about because it would be spoilers, but it basically continues the story that was or stories I should say, in the previous book. Like in the previous book, I find it very helpful that in the beginning of the book we have an overview of who the characters are and like how they are related to each other. Like this, for example, this is Aya, and then her mother is this person, and her father is that person. But I don't want to show you because it kind of contains spoilers for the characters you meet in book 1 and things that happen with them. So I'm not going to show that. I can maybe show you a little bit of art. So this book continues the storylines. It is about Aya and her 2 best friends, Bintu and Ajua, and also other characters. And like the first one, I quite liked this book, but I found that as we got further in the book, there were quite a lot of different storylines going on with different characters, and we seemed to kind of switch rapidly from one to the other. Maybe that is just my brain that couldn't quite keep up. I also wish the book had gone on a bit beyond the ending, because I felt like now everything was a bit rushed and quickly tied up and quickly resolved. I would have liked to have seen that take a bit longer instead of yeah, just, yeah. So I still liked it, but not as much as the first book. Then I read I Hate Fairyland by Skottie Young, and a couple of other people. This is volume 1, Madly Ever After. And as is obvious with the art, this is quite gory and bloody. So if you're not good with that, I wouldn't recommend this. Or if you're young, then this might not be so good for you. This is about a girl who ends up in Fairyland from our world, and she doesn't want to be there. I could show you the back, but it's a bit gory, so let's not do that. Now, I really like the colourful art. Let me see if I can show you a page that is maybe a bit less gory. Well, this one's a bit less bad. I really liked how colourful the art was. For the first half of this book, I wasn't sure if I was really like enjoying it. I'm not sure why that is. For me, for this kind of like gory stuff with a character that is, let's say, more on the evil side, I really need to be in a specific mood to read that, because I am very much like lawful good. So, but anyway, but the second half of this book I enjoyed more. I got more into it, and there were some plot twists that I did not see coming. So now I'm looking forward to read the other volumes in this series. I have the first 4. I think that's all that's out at the moment. I don't know if I presume it's not finished, but I don't know that for sure. So yeah, overall I enjoyed this in the end, but it took a while for me to get there and see the more, see it develop or something. I don't know, but I enjoyed it in the end. But it is gory, so if you don't like that stuff, and I usually don't like that stuff, I should point that out. Then I read 100 Hugs by Chris Riddell, and this is not really, you don't really read this book in so much as look at the pictures, because this contains 100 illustrations of hugs. It says a book to warm those in need of a hug. Oh, a book to warm the hearts of those in need of a hug. And I was feeling a bit low whenever it was that I read this, so I decided to pick this up. And well, as you can see on the cover, that's one of the illustrations. I don't know about showing you more, I'm not sure, but I enjoyed this, if that's, you can say that. It is heartwarming. I really liked that there was all sorts of diversity in the hugs. So it is not just people, it is also like creatures and animals. There are also a couple of ones that include like a person of color. There's a person in a wheelchair, older people, younger people, and all sorts of creatures, like I said. So I quite liked that we had, all sorts of various beings, let me put it that way. And I like his art style. Every once in a while there's a page with a quote from something or someone. So yeah, it was enjoyable. There is no story, it's just nice illustrations to look at. Then I read Bloom, and this is written by Kevin Panetta and Savanna Ganucheau. This is also a graphic novel. And this is about 2 boys in a bakery and the romance. So it's a male-male romance. And it's about Ari, who he lives with his parents in like their bakery. This is a young adult, and he has to help them like making buns and things in the bakery, and he doesn't really like it. He would like to do something else, but he doesn't really quite know what. And then he meets Hector, and Hector really likes baking. Oh yeah, so Kevin Panetta is the writer and Savanna Ganucheau is the artist. Anyway, I quite enjoyed this book. It was really cute. It reminded me a bit of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, which is a graphic novel based on her Tumblr comics, and that also involves a cute male romance, and so this reminded me a bit of that. But yeah, I like this a lot. Then I read Book Love by Debbie Tung. She has also written A Quiet Girl in a Noisy World. She's also illustrated Quiet Girl in a Noisy World, which was a book about introverts and how she experiences that. This one is all about books and book love. I bought this based on the recommendation of my friend Charlie Brook, and I have to say I really like this. This contains a lot of comic strips, and they have to do with books and reading and the love for reading, and I really related to a lot of these. Not quite all of them, but to a lot of them, and this was just a joy to read. So, thank you very much for the recommendation, Charlie. This was really nice. And the last book is Volwassen worden, optioneel by Marloes de Vries. This is a recent release by Blossom Books. It is Dutch, and this is a comic memoir. Written and illustrated by the author. And she, the title basically means like becoming an adult, or I guess adulting maybe, is optional. And it is about like, adulting, I guess, and becoming an adult, and how some of her friends, for example, are having babies and she's having trouble keeping a plant alive. So that it contains a lot of like different comics, and some of them have more text, and it's about various subjects, and I really enjoyed this. It reminded me a bit of Sarah's Scribbles, which are also comics about adulting. Anyway, I really enjoyed this book. It made me laugh a few times. I can relate to some of it, and yeah, I liked it. Okay, that was the end of this sort of wrap up. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. I love reading all these graphic works like once a month for a few days. I will say some people have recently said to me that they are pricey for like how long it takes you to read them, and I agree with that. I don't know if those people watch my videos, but I do really love reading them, so even though it doesn't take me that long to read them, I get a lot of enjoyment out of it. My library does have some graphic novels, but they have more like comic strips, and then you need to read like so many volumes of them to get the whole story. Each of them being quite thin. It's yeah, I guess Dutch comics really. Whereas I prefer having like longer graphic novels rather than that you have to buy like so many volumes or something. It's a shame my library doesn't have more of like the stuff that I like to read, but then a lot of it is not translated. So anyway, in the future I will have to start spending less money, so I don't know that I can keep reading all these graphic novels, manga, memoirs, all that each month. I still have some left to read, but I won't be able to keep up with reading like this many. Oh, hang on. This many a month. I can think about it later. The ones I already own, I do want to read that I haven't read yet. At least I can reread more. Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna work on that. Yeah, so thank you very much for watching this sort of review wrap up, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!